Welcome to Byte-Sized Tech, where we like to blend casual conversations with insightful discussions on the latest in technology and gadgets.
I love that. That really captures what we do here.
Well, today we're diving deep into all things AI.
Ooh, good one.
Because, let's face it, it's impossible to ignore AI these days.
True. It's everywhere you look.
It really is.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot to cover. We're looking at how businesses are actually using AI right now.
The real world stuff.
Exactly. Plus, we'll look at the big players fighting it out to control AI infrastructure. There's a huge acquisition Google just made that tells us a lot about their AI strategy, what NVIDIA's been up to, how the market's feeling about all this AI excitement.
Because there's a lot of hype out there, right?
Oh, yeah. Tons of hype. And then a really interesting lawsuit that brings up some of the thornier issues around this tech.
Thorny is a good word for it.
It is. We pulled all this from some excellent reporting over at Bloomberg Technology, so let's jump in.
Let's dive in.
It feels like the whole conversation around AI is changing, don't you think?
I do. It seems like for the longest time we were all talking about these gigantic AI models and the huge amount of computing power needed to train them.
It was all about how big can we go?
Exactly. And now it seems like the focus is shifting to how are we actually using this stuff to make a difference in the real world?
It's about application now.
Totally.
The phrase I keep hearing over and over is AI agents.
Yeah, AI agents. That's the new hotness.
And apparently 2025, this year, is going to be the year they really start making a big impact in the business world.
The year of the agents, so to speak.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
We're already seeing some interesting things happening in areas like coding. I mean, can you imagine how much time that could save developers?
Oh, I can only imagine.
And also customer service and sales. I read about a company called Maven AGI that's doing some really cool things in customer support.
Yeah.
They're integrating their AI into existing systems, which I'm sure is no easy feat, and helping companies resolve customer issues faster and cheaper.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right. That's the kind of practical application that gets me excited about AI.
It's not just about theory anymore. It's about actual results.
Exactly.
Yep.
But then there's also this discussion about how quickly we'll see big changes from AI agents versus something like physical AI, robots actually doing things out in the world.
That's a really interesting question.
Some people are saying we might see bigger, more immediate benefits from physical AI in certain industries.
Ah, okay. I see.
What do you think about that?
Well, it raises a really important point. What do we even mean when we say agents?
Right, because it's a pretty broad term.
It is.
Yeah.
So the definition we're using here is basically autonomous systems that are driven by those large language models we were talking about.
Okay.
And that makes sense for things like coding and customer service and sales. But when you try to take that beyond those areas and into something like robotics or a warehouse environment or even scientific research, that's where things get a lot more complicated.
Because you're dealing with a lot more complexity.
Exactly. Integrating with proprietary data, unique workflows, making sure the outcomes are verifiable, it's a lot more challenging.
That makes sense.
Mm.
I remember reading about someone who tried to book a flight using an AI, and it was a disaster.
Oh, no.
I mean, booking a flight should be a pretty simple task, but the AI kept missing details and making wrong assumptions, and it just turned into this whole ordeal.
Wow.
It really makes you think about all the things that can go wrong when an AI is trying to handle something complicated, especially when you're dealing with consumers who just want things to work smoothly.
Absolutely. It highlights the importance of building AI systems that are reliable and easy for people to use and understand.
Exactly.
And that brings us to another important point. All of these complexities we're talking about. The need for a robust and flexible AI infrastructure.
That's where these new open source AI cloud platforms are coming in, right? Like Together AI.
Yes, exactly.
I think that could be a real game changer. The idea that companies don't necessarily have to rely on these huge cloud providers. They can use these cheaper, more efficient open source models, maybe even less expensive hardware. It's pretty compelling.
It is. It could make AI development and deployment a lot more accessible to a wider range of companies.
It could democratize it in a way.
I like how you put that. And it's not just about the technology either. The talent pool for AI expertise is global now.
I was reading about that.
You have amazing engineers coming out of China. Companies like DeepSeek are showing some impressive hardware and engineering efficiency.
And Mistral in France, they're building really strong open source models.
Exactly. So it's a global race now. It's not just Silicon Valley anymore.
It feels like this real push towards efficiency is happening everywhere. Doing more with less compute power, using cheaper chips, embracing open source technologies.
It's about sustainability, too.
Absolutely.
And there's been a lot of excitement about the new AI lead in the U.S. administration.
I heard about that.
It's still early days, but there's a lot of hope that this will really boost domestic AI innovation.
Oh, that's interesting.
Especially in those areas we were talking about, robotics, space, defense, manufacturing. There's a ton of potential there.
Okay, let's switch gears for a second and talk about Google's big move, their acquisition of the cloud security company Wiz for a whopping $32 billion.
I mean, that's Alphabet's biggest acquisition ever.
That's saying something.
That really tells you how seriously they're taking all of this.
And Wiz is only 5 years old.
5 years old. But they already have a bunch of Fortune 100 companies as clients, and they've attracted some serious investment from big Silicon Valley venture capitalists.
Wow.
That tells you they're doing something right in the cloud security space. It seems like Google really wants to be a top player in the cloud market, and right now they're in third place.
So they're making moves.
They are.
It is interesting, though, that Wiz is going to keep supporting Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure, even after being bought by Google.
It's a smart move. That multi-cloud approach is really important these days. And it makes you wonder, why did Wiz choose to be acquired?
Right. Why not go for another round of funding or an IPO?
Especially with how fast they're growing and all those great customers. It could be the regulatory environment. You know, things are getting pretty complicated for tech companies.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe the founders saw this as a unique chance to really scale their technology and reach a much wider audience by being part of Google.
That makes sense.
It's a really big deal. It shows just how important security is in the age of AI and cloud computing.
Speaking of big deals, everyone in tech was watching NVIDIA and Jensen Huang's keynote at the recent AI conference.
Oh, yeah.
Investors really wanted to hear about their plans for future chips, especially the Blackwell Ultra, and get a clearer idea of their strategy around inference, actually using those trained AI models.
You know, what's really fascinating here is this subtle shift in emphasis. For a while, it was all about pre-training these massive AI models, which takes a ton of resources. But now, more and more people are talking about reasoning and inference. How do we actually use these powerful models to solve real-world problems in a way that makes sense cost-wise?
Yeah, and I'm sure NVIDIA was pushing the idea that you still need their GPUs for this inference stage.
Of course. And, you know, there was probably a lot of talk about the timeline for physical AI application.
Like self-driving cars.
Yeah.
When are they going to start making some real money?
Exactly. Everyone wants to know. And, you know, it's always good to get a sense of where other potentially disruptive technologies fit into all of this.
Right. Like, where does quantum computing stand?
It's interesting. Apparently, most people think quantum computing is still pretty far off. One person even joked that it's like being in the 80s of computing development, which I think puts things in perspective. Classical computing architectures are still king, but they're being adapted for AI. But the chip market is definitely getting more competitive. You have big players like Amazon developing their own chips.
Right now, NVIDIA is the leader. Their chips offer a great combination of price, performance, power efficiency, and standardization. But you have to wonder if those huge cloud providers, with all their cost concerns, will eventually try to diversify their chip sources.
It's a long-term strategic question for them. NVIDIA might be in a strong position right now, but those big cloud companies are always looking for ways to save money and reduce their reliance on any one vendor.
It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the market in general. It seems like the tech sector is facing some challenges right now with interest rates and market corrections and all that.
Yeah, a lot of uncertainty out there.
It feels like that initial excitement, that frenzy around AI, might be cooling down a little.
Yeah.
Investors want to see real-world deployments, actual results, and profits, not just hype.
I think you're right. The market is starting to demand tangible results.
It's not just about the potential anymore.
Exactly. Which could lead to a shift in investment strategies. You know, moving away from those core AI companies, the chip makers and the cloud providers, towards what some people are calling second derivative AI plays.
Second derivative, what's that?
So that could include companies involved in data centers, cloud infrastructure, even sectors like medical real estate and healthcare. They're all going to benefit from the wider adoption of AI.
Makes sense.
Healthcare is a really interesting one because it has a huge potential for AI, and it can be a safer investment in times of economic uncertainty.
A little more stable.
Exactly. The potential for AI to transform healthcare is enormous. Diagnostics, drug discovery, personalized patient care, it could revolutionize everything.
And the amount of data they have in healthcare is unbelievable.
It's mind-boggling. But of course, we have to be careful with all of this. There are regulations, ethical considerations. We need to make sure AI is implemented responsibly and equitably.
Right. It can't just be a free-for-all.
Exactly. We need to be thoughtful about this.
Well, I feel like we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
We've talked about how AI is being used in business, the battle for control of AI infrastructure, big acquisitions, the latest in AI chip technology, how the market's reacting to all of this.
And of course, the ethical and legal questions.
Oh, yeah. Can't forget those.
Yeah.
It's amazing how fast this field is moving.
It really is. And you know, what's really fascinating is how all of these developments are connected. It really paints a picture of a transformative period for technology and how it's going to impact the world.
Absolutely. So much is happening right now.
It's an exciting time to be following AI.
It really is. All right. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in to Byte-Sized Tech.
Hope you enjoyed the deep dive.
If you did, be sure to like, comment, and share this with anyone who might find it interesting. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next exploration into the world of tech.
We'll see you next time.
See you then.